Hello. Welcome to Everyday Experts. I'm your host, Sir Joker. You can call me Achille. You can call me Joker Achille. I've been called a lot of different things. Some of my clients have called me not nice names. But I have managed to wrangle one of the people that I really enjoy talking to, because as much as he is a cinephile and I am not, he's also a comic book lover. And it's also interesting to just have conversations with him because he's very cultured and very in depth with the things that he talks about. I was poking around his video YouTube channel today, Next Issue Podcast, and I was looking at some of his shorts, and he talked about Madam Web, and he did a bunch of reviews. I am gonna touch on that, and we're gonna get into some cultural stuff because very rarely am I alone and get to talk to another person who is cultured, and Danny brings a different aspect. So I could go on and on about how amazing this man is, how awesome he is. I call him the comic book whisperer. Everybody else calls him the ambassador. I like to call him Danny N. Coming to the motherfucking stage, Danny Martinez.
Yo, what's going on?
Gang. What's up, brother? It's been a while. How you doing, sir?
It has been a while. I'm doing good. Same old maintaining. I think right now we're on maintenance mode where like make sure things don't get worse. That's just like, even if they're not getting better. But yeah, no, it's good. It's been good. Had a long active day today, so it's nice to kind of come here and unwind with a nice chat before closing out the day. I'm still trying to debate if I'm gonna stay up for the F1 race or if I'm just gonna try to wake up early. So we'll see.
F1 NASCAR? You watching that?
F1, yeah, Formula One. So
nice.
The one that's going on, and I don't normally watch Formula One, but everything that's going on in Vegas is such a mess. I don't know if you've seen any of the coverage. Like,
no,
I mainly want to check it out for the drama of like, will they even be able to get a whole race done? I know they've done practice stuff and all that, but it starts at like 1 a.m. Eastern, because they're like, oh, even though it's in the U.S., let's cater to our European fan base because they're the ones who really watch this stuff. So I'm like, well, why are you doing it in Vegas then? So we'll see what happens. But it's been a nice long active day. So
those are the best days.
Yeah.
We're going to jump right into it, sir. I've noticed that you have been signed in as Daniel on a lot of stuff, but I was wondering, is this new? I know because a lot of stuff you had Danny, or maybe I haven't noticed. Is this Danny, saying, listen, put some respect on my name?
No. Here's what it is really. At work, I go by Daniel or Dan, really, right? Actually, my first manager at the company where I'm currently at, he would call me Dan, and I think people just started calling me that. So because I changed my name sometimes on streams for stuff, like when we're doing stuff for the show or whatever, I just forget to update it back to Danny or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. It doesn't matter as long as some variation of Daniel comes out. I think it should be good.
Oh, James Dorian haunting our life. Hello, Mr. Nails. Mr. Got Bent was here. He left.
I had to address the picture behind us. You asked me for a picture, and I was like, "Oh, he's probably going to put up a thumbnail or something."
Yes.
I did not expect to just have myself as the background of.
Beautiful.
I like it. I might start doing it on my channel.
I like to do it with. It really started probably with my wife,
Okay.
and her friend, and I would put her and the kids up because a
Yeah, that
lot of
makes
times you want
but
to have context, right?
that makes sense because they're your family, and it's like nice to have them in there.
Yeah, I
This
like
is weird.
people always just like this is so weird, but
Well,
it's cool looking at yourself. I think.
it's listen, after doing the channel for all these years,
Mm-hmm.
I look at myself all the time on camera, right? Because I edit my own videos.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's good for self-confidence or at least self-awareness.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I don't have a problem with looking at myself on a screen. It is daunting to see myself in this specific setup. So,
I think you're just a badass, and then we're
well,
basking in your badassery.
and it's I mean they cropped it out really interestingly too. So it just kind of came out. I've been messing around with StreamYard. So like whenever there's a 2-person setup, I've set it up where the boxes are a little bit less, they're a little bit taller but less wide. So it's like more of a square, but not completely a square. Yeah,
Oh,
like
like this one.
kind of like that, but zoomed in.
Uh-huh.
But no, you could please you can change it back. I mean at this point we're already here.
I like
Um,
it.
but I do like to mess around with the layouts on StreamYard to like change things up a little bit, and they keep adding features and stuff. So you know, but yeah, this is it's interesting. I'll be looking into my eyes, and you know,
yourself.
I guess while we're talking about that, like the world has turned over to like Zoom calls and teleconferencing, like very much so in the last few years because of obviously all the world events. But do you find yourself and you work with a lot of people and you know how people work with their mind and stuff,
Yeah.
and so maybe I can get some insight from you on this. Is it narcissistic that I usually sometimes just kind of stare at my own box
So
instead of like I'll catch myself just staring at my own box instead of like
mhm.
the others. Like obviously if somebody's displaying something, I'll pay attention to the meeting.
Yeah.
But if it's just like a bunch of random things, I mean, half of the people don't turn on their cameras, which is one thing. So like I don't
Mhm.
care to just look at their names or their pictures or whatever. But so I don't know if it's a narcissistic thing or I'm just trying to be very self-aware of what I'm doing, make sure I don't do anything dumb on camera. So I don't know. What's your insight there, Joker? What do
I
you do?
think it. So I think it's both. Me personally, I like to have the speaker and myself up so that I can see who's talking. One, because I think it's weird to talk to just a box that's blinking and
Yeah.
highlight it. I also like to look at myself because I look at you too. Like when it's two of us, I go back and forth, kind of bounce back
Right.
and forth to see if I'm frozen, see if something's going on. But also, I don't know, it's weird. I like to look at myself, just like you said. It's not. I don't think it's narcissistic because you're not there like, hey, Danny, you look
It
great.
feels it. It feels nice. Here, let me give the audience a little behind the scenes. If I'm looking like this,
Yeah.
if you see my eyes in this direction, I'm looking at Joker.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm looking like this, I'm looking at my
Mm-hmm.
own window. So just keep a tally in the chat.
Okay. We're gonna have to. Daniel looked at himself 485 times
Yeah.
during the interview.
It's gonna be a new drinking game.
I think, but also maybe because I spend so much time looking at on session when I'm doing a telehealth session, I probably do focus on the people more.
Right.
But I would say that's because our boxes are the same size, so my eyes go back and forth.
Yeah. One on one is easier, but I feel like
Yeah.
when there's like multiple people, I just mainly focus on like what am I doing to make sure that
Right.
I come off looking good, and so
That makes sense. But to further, when I do telehealth, the person who I'm seeing, their box is bigger, mine's is smaller. And I think their box is probably bigger for that exact reason, so that I'm focused on them. Because because a telesession, a screen in between is going to make it even more awkward than
Yeah,
normal.
yeah,
So I have to kind of try to be engaged, because if I'm not looking at you when I'm talking to you about something, you're going to pick up on that and you're going to notice that. You're going to be like, why aren't you looking at? But I've had people be like, is everything okay? So sometimes I'll turn my screen off if I have to sneeze or whatever. But if I don't want them to hear me, I'll turn the mic off. And if I turn my screen off, people will always say, "Is everything all right?" So it's pretty
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Yeah, especially with this on StreamYard, if you do that, like if you turn your camera off, it'll drop. I think they have it set up. Rob has it set up where it'll just drop you.
Yeah,
It'll make your screen bigger, so that's pretty funny.
I like it when somebody's talking. I'll remove myself and I'll give them the
And
solo
just like
layout,
check screen.
and they'll be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay."
Well, this one won't change much. It'll just be my face in the full screen or my face in the back. So
I think you should. I think
yeah,
you're the face of the Next Issue podcast. You're like LeBron. You're the face, so you should be the one that leads the narrative.
yeah, yeah. That's true. Um, I might choose a different player, but sure.
Well, I'm just okay. Well, he's kind of. Well, who would you choose? That's a good question. Who's your
I would
favorite?
have chosen. I mean, I would choose Dirk. Like he
Dirk.
was the face of the Mavs for so long. So Dirk's
Mm,
he's my boy. He finally got his. He finally
he
got
got his.
one, and that's all. That's all we can ask for. I think something really, really funny about being the Dallas sports fan outside of the Cowboys, all the other teams have. I know. Outside of the Cowboys, all the other teams like they've really been struggling to get one.
Yeah.
But I think like most of them already have at least one, right? The Rangers just won this year, and the Mavs got one a few years ago. The
Didn't
Stars
Houston,
back in '99, I think.
didn't Houston win one?
Oh, I don't. That's different. That's like you. That's like me asking you.
Oh.
That's like me asking you if New Jersey won one for you. I know it's
Okay.
I know New Jersey is technically a different state, but to us, Houston might as well be a different state.
Oh,
Yeah,
really? Oh, we're getting
big
inside
rivalry.
the news like Rob
Big
Fisher.
rivalry. Yeah, yeah. Like Houston teams, San Antonio teams, like those aren't my teams. I'm
Oh.
Dallas teams. Yeah.
So how do you feel about the Spurs having Victor Wembanyama?
Oh, I don't keep enough with. I barely keep up with the Mavericks, so I
Okay.
don't. Yeah,
Well,
as far as sports, like unless we're doing real good and then like everyone's talking about it, that's when I
yeah.
get in and get back in.
Okay.
So,
Just for the record, I'm an Eagles fan since middle school.
which is odd, being where you are.
So, and this will be a good segue into stuff. So one of the reasons I told you about Double Toasted, one of the reasons why I watched Double Toasted is because it's one of the shows where they're two black. Well, they rotate people in, but they're for the most part, Corey, who hosts the show, is black, and the guy there's two black reviewers or critiquers, and they talk about common stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming y'all relate to this, that sometimes it's cool to just, there's nothing wrong with Kristen and Campia and all of them. There's nothing wrong with any of them. It's just a different perspective usually that I feel like they take on kind of my perspective about things. And I can be like, oh yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, although that's not my main goal, I do hope that some people in the channel get that out of me, right? Like, if you if you look at our streams, it is three white dudes and myself, and even then, like it's still like four cisgender males, like still talking about all that nonsense. But now we've added my buddy Jeff, but even then, like, yeah, I like trying to invite people, but it's so hard to like outside of like the kind of community we've built here with the people here. And I understand that people are hesitant because, like, you never know like how somebody is behind. Like if somebody invites me to a thing, like I don't have the time to go on their channel and figure out like are they cool, like all that stuff. So
it's hard.
So
because you gotta understand who you're co-signing to, because some of these people like they're all right, but what did Jay-Z say? He's all right, but he's not real.
yeah.
So I want to start with the Hunger Games to transition into some fun stuff. I started to watch your review, but I know you've been doing a lot of reviews, and I try not to be too movie centric, but I
Okay.
know you're a big movie person. No, it's fine. I know that's one of the things that you do. So I know
Yeah.
you reviewed The Hunger Games. So I was watching a couple of reviews on it. I haven't seen it yet, but it seems like they give zero fucks in this movie and have kids killing kids and fighting kids and all.
So I was talking to some people today, and so there was two movies I wanted to watch this weekend. One of them was that Thanksgiving, which is the Eli Roth slasher film, which I was expecting.
Oh, I want to see that.
I watched that today. Which Eli Roth is not normally my cup of tea. Like after those Hostel movies, I didn't even watch Green Inferno. Like I was like, it's too much. Like
Yeah.
it's too much for me. But Thanksgiving looked fun, looked kind of campy, looked kind of like it's also Thanksgiving, so like that's a weird holiday to make a movie around. But then when I was watching the Hunger Games, there was a part where I was like, holy shit, like is this Eli Roth's Hunger Games? What the fuck's going on?
Right.
Like it's still a PG-13 movie, but the implication of what, and I don't know, I want to revisit the old films because I want to, like, I don't remember, like, did they imply so much violence at the time? Maybe it just like I was kind of like, it was a long time ago, so like the things that I kind of pay attention to in a film are different. So
yeah, but I also think that they gave you Katniss to like you're following her story.
Well, and this movie has somebody like an equivalent to that. So like I don't.
That the Rachel.
Yeah, Rachel Ziegler's character, Lucy Gray. So yeah, I haven't read the books. Movie? I don't know anything about that. These are all new characters to me, except like obviously Snow, since he's it's a prequel, so it's all him. So
I wanted to ask you because I do know that when we talked about Brightburn, I think the last time you were on.
Yeah.
We weren't a huge fan of Brightburn. I think you said that it was a lot of extra violence and all that stuff.
It was, a lot of gratuitous, I think, gratuitous violence.
Do you feel like, because, and we'll just take the example of the kids killing kids, and, they said they had a girl who had Downs and person one, like it was extra. Do you think that the morality in movies is starting to kind of like, I don't want to say go away, but maybe decrease, that they're just doing a lot? Like, did you see Evil Dead Rise, the new one? Did you see?
No, I don't. I'm not a big fan of those Evil Dead movies either. I love Sam Raimi, but not those films. I think creators definitely love to kind of push the boundaries of what like they can do in films, which I think it's cool. But it's definitely like there's a reason that sometimes those things don't hit with everyone, right? So yeah, it's kind of like it's a give or take that, if I'm gonna have my full artistic vision on something, and that's gonna include all this gratuitous violence, I have to be mindful that will also mean that the impact on the reception may not be the same for everyone.
Yes.
So yeah, it's it's a balance. Then you gotta make a choice.
Do you think that when we talk about kind of modern movies, and I think they're trying to do it more with horror movies, did you see Talk to Me?
Yeah.
I thought that was an excellent horror
movie. Love that movie too. Yeah.
And I thought that, was it violent? Yes, but I don't feel like it was over the top.
I think maybe just one scene, like, that big scene with the kid, like, yeah.
At the beginning?
No. Like where the big climax happens and like.
Oh yeah, at the end.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I think I don't want to go too spoilery, but like, with the kid is in the chair and like
the possession scene.
Yeah.
That was so it was heavy to watch. That was like,
it was tough. I was not expecting them to go there.
No, and the kid was amazing in the movie.
Yeah,
he was really good. And I think in context it made sense.
Oh, for sure.
But I feel like a lot of the horror movies that are coming out now, they're not trying to be scary. They're just trying to be more and more violent.
I mean, it's cyclical, right? I think that happened too with the 2000s, where like Saw and those Hostel movies, and then it escalated, and then like people were kind of tired of that, and then We got movies like The Conjuring that brought it back to more of the jump scares and stuff, paranormal stuff. So yeah, I think it's just very cyclical in the nature of like the horror genre, where like, oh, I don't want to see people get slaughtered anymore. So maybe now I want to see more of a thriller side of the horror part of it, or like Ghost, or whatever. So
So with that, I know that, and this is sort of Marvel-ish talk, because I think Marvel's one of the forerunners in this stuff. And I had sent, and I don't always send questions, but I had sent you the question so that you could kind of like think about it.
yeah,
And I think that helps you probably feel more comfortable. So when we talk about like the representation, we talk about Black Panther 2, we talk about Black Panther, OG Black Panther, we talk about Miss Marvel, we talk about
Shang-Chi, like there's the
yes, where they're starting to have more cultural representation. Do you think that it's becoming? Do you think it's how do you feel about it? Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it's something that's gonna take off? Is it a phase?
No, I think people are. I mean, it's kind of different level things, right? I think first of all, people want to see a real representation of the world. But that also depends, like where do you live? Where like how much of a scope do you have on that world? Like right, right. I think living in bigger cities, of course, you see a whole plethora of different people and lifestyles. Maybe living in other places that are more isolated, you only kind of see a smaller community and maybe a bunch of people that just kind of look like you or whatever. So there's definitely those things. I think also that creators of different backgrounds are being given more opportunities.
Yes.
So they want to kind of push that forward as far as like, yeah, this is how I see the world. This is my part of the world, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just the nature of the business too. Like you wanna your art to reflect the world that you're living in, not just like the idealized version of it. So
100%. Do you feel that one of the things that I didn't like about Black Panther 2 was that it's obviously pitting, culture against culture. And I know they didn't say that. You get it's the Wakandans and what were they called again? I forgot. The
Tolokans.
Yes. I didn't like the aspect of, to me, and you can say how you felt, because you're gonna obviously bring a different perspective. Mm-hmm. I didn't like the almost black verse, Latino vibe that it had to it, because I think of all the cultures that intermingle in the United States, that there's probably the most parallel and the most closeness between the Black and Spanish culture.
Yeah, I think
so. I didn't like. You said what?
No, yeah. I get what you're saying.
I don't like that it almost felt like it was,
like pitting them against each other.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's also kind of a reflection of like the real world, right? I think ideally, we do want to like work together with people, but unfortunately, like sometimes communities do close off like that, and they don't realize that putting aside their differences and looking at their similarities is probably better in the long run. So I thought it was interesting. It was an interesting reflection of that.
Yes.
But then when we explore of like, oh, look how like when Shuri and Namor go like down and they're like, oh, this is my house. This is what it looks like. It's kind of like when you go to a friend's house for the first time and they're a different culture and you're like, oh, wait a minute. I like all these things happen to me too. Like as different as they may have some things or their food or their customs or whatever, like notice also like, oh, you also go through the same stuff that I'm going through. So like, it's a reflection of both things. So yeah, I don't know. I like that. I definitely love seeing that type of culture represented on screen as well. So no, it was yeah. I mean, I really like that movie. And I'm kind of glad that they changed the changes that were made from the comics. I think they were effective.
Mhm.
So
Okay. Um, do you think it was from your, your knowledge, and I'm talking about specifically like your culture? Do you think it was a good representation, or not necessarily of your culture, but of maybe things that are parallel to your culture, things that your family might do? And if it's not, it's not.
um, and then I see. I mean, that's kind of tough because of a couple of reasons. First of all, it's kind of a made up indigenous. Like it's a mixture of different things, right?
Mhm.
Also, I'm not fully indigenous, so like that's another thing that I can only speak so much to stuff like that. But I mean, anytime somebody speaks Spanish on a movie or something, like that's cool because like
Yeah.
it's kind of like you're in on the joke of it all, right? Or
Mhm.
you're in on the thing, you're in on the secret because I speak Spanish, so like so that's just cool. Like I don't need to read the subtitles. Like the subtitles aren't for me; they're for everyone else that doesn't understand, right? Um, yeah. So I thought it was cool. Like I think Black Panther 2 does a really cool thing where like each language has different color subtitles.
Yeah.
At least they did in the theater. I have the movie. Well, yeah, I have the movie. I just haven't. I
Oh,
watched it in a
nice.
little while. Yeah, I got the little. I think I got both versions of. Yeah. So I got the. Oh, hold on. I got the Shuri steel box in. So I got both versions of it. You
Okay.
know, I don't prefer one over the other. I love both of them. But yeah, it's tough. Like, but that's cool. Like, I've been watching more movies in other languages where I do have to read the subtitles. I watch a lot of anime that's in Japanese,
We're gonna
where I
talk
have to
about
read
anime later.
the subtitles. So like, I think it's interesting just to see even how that stuff is adapted, and um, so
I do think that for me, so I watch everything with subtitles because I
same.
had I had the mother-in-law experience who would come in and talk during when I was trying to watch TV shows. So I just have to ignore her so I could actually read the
Yeah,
subtitles. But I do think that it gives a different context to it when you hear all of the words. Like like I'm not a huge Nolan fan, and it's not I'm not a Nolan. It's not against or for whatever. I'm just not a huge Nolan fan where I got to see. I haven't seen Oppenheimer, and I just saw Barbie 3 weeks ago.
oh,
Yeah,
well,
um,
Oppenheimer's out soon, so I hope you get to watch that because
I,
man,
I will watch Oppenheimer when it comes on. I think on TV because I was a history major, so I like the history part of it.
yeah,
Um, but
powerful stuff.
you said what?
It's powerful stuff, I think.
It is a lot of it because you're looking at periods of time that changed everybody.
Mhm.
Like people are gonna go back and look. They're gonna look at 2020, like the pandemic. And for me, being a therapist and working with people post pandemic, that opened the pandemic punched everybody in their face.
Yeah,
It affected everybody, and the stuff that came out afterwards, you see a lot of couples and families that were affected, but not even just by death. Just okay, I don't really have friends. I don't have
just
anywhere to go. I
yeah,
can't.
just the fact that you had to spend so either if you're somebody that lives with your family or whatever, you had
Yeah,
just the fact that you had to spend so much time with them, whereas maybe you didn't before because it was you were always working or like they were always working or whatever.
yeah.
So yeah, it definitely it put a lot of things to the test. I think on some aspects maybe we came out better on some fronts, like where we realized there's some things that maybe we should work from home more often. Like there's like things can get done from home. Like obviously there's a lot of things that came out of like, oh, there are our systems are not ideal
Mm.
to support everything that we're doing, and like that additional stress you really broke a lot of things, and it kind of put a little emphasis on that. So and then of course there's still a lot of people like yeah, it's just the aftermath of like I'm gonna call it trauma. I don't know if that's the right word, but it, like
Probably you're right.
yeah, it was something that kind of the world shutting down like from one weekend to the
Oh,
next was uh, yeah, traumatic experience. Like I don't know that we'll ever forget something like that. And maybe this is like maybe when the whole thing, like to loop back to Oppenheimer and stuff like that. I don't know if when that was happening in the world, if people were so aware of it, where they'll also kind of remember, and maybe in the next a decade or so, somebody will make a movie about everything that happened, and we'll
Oh,
be
they
like,
will.
oh, that's not what it was like, or yeah, that is what it was like, and stuff like that. Like maybe people that there's some people that still kind of live through the Oppenheimer of it all, or World War II, or
Mhm.
whatever, like all those things that we take and fictionalize, and you
Mhm.
know,
And it's real.
yeah,
Yeah. So, I mean, just kind of like to go back to the cultural aspect real quick.
sure,
Do you think that people, well, I would say critics, some of the reviews I heard, I mean, most people saying that it was fine.
yeah,
You know, I do feel like, and this is my take, and you can give your take, that part of it is that the lack of understanding of the culture and the lack of, kind of the research and stuff like that. So do you think that the movies didn't get the support they should have because people don't understand, don't buy in, don't get the culture?
I think there's a few things that are part of that. I mean, first of all, I think media literacy is important, and
Mm-hmm.
I think there's such a sense of urgency, and like you want to be the first one out there with your opinion out there, right? Because that
Mm-hmm.
will definitely shine the spotlight. Like I don't think that I wouldn't imagine that somebody like, I don't know, Roger Ebert, or whatever, Ebert and Roger, like whatever those critics, like I don't think they were rushing to put out a review for something, right? It
Yeah.
was something that it was like their show was at this specific time, and then people would, like, they wanted to tune in, so they had plenty of time to prep. Like the audience, they understood, kind of like stuff like that. But now, like for example, today I just got home, and like from after watching Thanksgiving, I wanted to put out a quick video like, hey, here's what I kind of thought of Thanksgiving. But I do make it clear that this is just my initial reaction. This isn't a review. This is just kind of how I felt leaving the movie. So
Mm-hmm.
it's up to the people that are talking about the material, like to make sure that I try to at least let everyone know, like, I'm not a film critic. I just like to watch this stuff, but also I'm gonna try to do my best to like tell you how I really feel about it and why I feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't just want to yell at the screen,
Yeah.
uh, which a lot of people do that, and whatever. If that's your bag, then I don't doesn't affect me for the
Mm-hmm.
most part. Um, so yeah, that, I mean, that's part of it, and then the next level is, yeah, the cultural understanding. Like, you have to, as an audience, do you even care to understand a different culture, or do you even care to understand,
Mm-hmm.
like, so it, that's probably a bigger piece of it. And then also, like, people go in with their preconceived notions and opinions, and like upfront opinions about stuff, and so like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know, it's complicated, but I think the big part of it is the media literacy, and also the immediacy of, like, I need to put something out there because I need to be the first person to talk about this, because then everyone will know that I very quickly talk about things, so then they'll want to come look at my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does that mean that I did enough prep to like really talk about the stuff? I don't know,
Right.
but I got something out real quick. So
Well, yeah, and I think that one of the problems that you do see for a lot of people, because I was watching Camp the other day, and he was saying that people get mad because he forgets names and stuff like that, but he was saying that I comment on, like, or respond to 40 to 50 topics a day.
hmm.
That's a lot if you're not, and he knows his stuff. I'm not trying to say he doesn't know his stuff, but when you're talking about things that involve, really the Mayans, the Aztecs, the Black culture, because you're trying to make it general.
Yeah,
And Ryan Coogler's writing about African culture.
yeah,
It's not African American culture, and it's fine. There's things that I can relate to and things I see, but there are things that are purely African experience that
hmm,
it's like, oh, just like the things that you probably saw. You're like, oh,
yeah,
I think that being the first one, I get it, but
I do think that if if your thing is gonna, if you're a larger content creator and you have a larger audience, there is a point where you do have a little bit more responsibility about what, like, being prepared. And I
yeah,
understand, but like if that's your job, and like, you have to have some kind of quality control over your product. It's like any product, like anything you're doing, right? um even if you're doing stuff as a hobby or whatever, even if just us just talking here, like,
yeah.
over, like, I don't know, I don't want this somebody to find this in 10 years and be like, what the fuck were they talking about? Well, why, who let those guys on the internet, like, stuff, something like that. So it was Rob.
Culture
Rob let us on the
people,
internet.
two
Rob let
culture
us on the
people
internet,
talk about
so blame,
culture.
yeah, blame
I
Rob.
mean, I understand, but again, like, and this is why I like to be prepared and when I come with stuff, but I also wanted you to be prepared for the question
Yeah.
so that you're not just like,
No, I'm glad you didn't come here to, like, Jerry, Jerry Springer me, like, what? Or who was it? Was it Maury? Maury's the one that said, like,
it was both of them. It was both of them.
or what's her name? Jenny Jones?
It
Is that
was
who it was?
it
I
was Jenny
remember them
Jones.
chanting Jenny. So it's Jenny for sure. I don't remember the yeah, that was, dude, that was when you stayed home sick from school
Yeah.
and you don't have cable, you just end up watching that garbage.
Yeah, because the garbage was great. You ate it up.
That's right.
Um, a couple more questions about this. Killers of the Flower Moon. There's a lot of Native American culture in it. I haven't seen it. Again, I've
I
only
haven't
watched
seen
the
it
preview.
either. Yeah, I
Okay.
haven't been able to watch
Do
it.
you know, like, so we could just talk on a surface level, the cultural aspect of, what was it, 3 hours and 15 minutes?
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons I didn't want to go watch it at the theater. I don't have that endurance anymore. I think the last film that long was like probably the Batman, maybe.
Okay.
But from what I have seen, and I've tried not to look too much into it to avoid any spoilers, but from what I have seen, like, Martin Scorsese did have a lot of consultants and people to
Mm,
kind of, like, and a lot of actors of native origin.
okay.
So I think if somebody like Martin Scorsese, who's like one of the most prestigious directors,
Mhm.
understands that there are certain steps that you need to prepare for, with the product, with the art, with your art, with these movies that you're making. Um, I feel like that should kind of trickle down to other people that maybe aspire to be somebody like Martin Scorsese, or
Mhm.
have your name, like, you know like, if you want to be on that level at someday, or you want to be, have that level of success or fame or whatever,
Mhm.
you have to take cues on everything they're doing, not just pick and choose, like, the things that are convenient for you, right?
Yep.
So, not that Marty's perfect. He has bashed on the MCU and all that.
Oh yeah, I
So,
think.
but hey, I get it. Those movies take away from, like, time from his movies, so, like, it makes sense that it's upsetting.
I'm sorry, I'm not sitting for a 3 hour and 15 minute movie unless everybody wants to see it. But then I'm going like 12 o'clock. Like it has to be like a lot of good
Yeah, it has to
people.
be an event. So, like, oh, well, I just watched Oppenheimer at the theater. That was almost 3 hours long, but that
Yeah,
was kind of like an event, right? It was
yeah.
like, oh, you had to go watch both Barbie and Oppenheimer, like, because it's like two fucking massive
Mhm.
things happening at the same time. So that was more for, like, to be part of the cultural zeitgeist. Also, I don't know that you can spoil Oppenheimer. It's you kind of know what's happening.
Bomb drops.
Mhm. I I did enjoy how the focus was really on the people that on that project. So that was an interesting take from Nolan, as opposed to just like, yeah, let's blow something up or whatever. So
But that makes sense.
yeah,
I mean, I do think that Nolan is. Well, what I like about Nolan is that he's a literature person, and he reads,
yeah,
and he's usually making all these connections because, I'm a logophile myself. I do like that aspect of him. Again, I don't have the mental wherewithal to go through because all his movies. Like, I think one of the things that makes me not a cinephile as much as other people, like I love movies, I don't want to have to, decode stuff and deal with all the people that are trying so hard to be like avant-garde.
Yeah.
Last question about the woke culture and all that stuff. Do you feel like it's becoming too much of an emphasis on being woke? And I'm just going to say, in this book about Marvel, and we'll go into that in a little bit. This book about Marvel, they were saying, or somebody was doing an interview, and they said Feige said that the Fantastic Forecast was too white, and that's why they got what's his name? Who they're trying to sign? Pedro Pascal. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the first thing is I don't even know what the word woke really means, other than like it feels like that's your shield to discredit something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Immediately. I don't know that it's not a word that covers everything. Like, why is representation?
Right.
Why is that the first thing you're up against? So that's always been weird, and I don't care for that term or whatever. Like, if you have fair criticism or something, or I get that, but yeah, that feels to me like you're just kind of using that umbrella of like, I'm gonna throw this out there to disarm or to make you look away first from me, from the fact that I don't really have an argument, but I'm gonna throw that up there because it's like it's like a preloaded argument almost,
because it has a negative connotation.
Yeah. And then as far as all that, I've seen, I think I don't have a problem in the comics with changing a character to reflect more of the world that we are a part of, as opposed to like the world that it was like back then. Not everybody was white, but all the superheroes were for some reason, right?
Yeah.
And part of that is because there was a lot of white creators working on them, so like they want to put themselves in those stories.
You're gonna draw and create, and you notice you're gonna draw and create from the breadth and the width of your experience.
Yeah. Now, does not being white affect the way Peter Parker would be? I don't think so. The New York is a very diverse city. Like Peter Parker could have been a kid of any color. Now, but being black is like part of the core essence of the Black Panther character.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not the same. Not every character is interchangeable, and not every character should be changed. So, that being said, with casting, I'm really bad at casting people. Like that's not my
either.
Because I feel like I just have the same 10 people in my head all the time.
I have Denzel play every role.
yeah, same. And now is a kid, Jay Washington too. Like, hey,
very good.
Put him in stuff. I want to see the creator. I haven't seen that.
I want to see it too.
I hear good things.
Really good.
Yeah, I hear good things. So, but yeah, as far as all that, I don't know. I attributing quotes to Feige and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. I feel like he's very calculated with the things that he says. So like, but people love to paraphrase or like pull hidden meanings out of what he's saying. Because sometimes he does talk in riddles, and I understand that he doesn't want to commit too hard to one thing or the other, because that, as we've seen, sometimes the overcommitment to something can kind of come back, and it's just not good for business, especially when as business is volatile as the movie making industry or just entertainment in general, right? I don't think they were expecting the strikes to happen, and by God they should, because these people deserve to get paid fair wages, and also the good repercussion out of that is that other industries saw like, oh, wait a minute, striking works. We've been doing it forever in this country. So get that bag.
So there's some people that to your point, there's some things that don't need to change. I don't think did Ariel need to be black in Little Mermaid? No. Did Chloe? She's an amazing Haley. Haley. I just want to call Haley Berry. Halle.
I think it is something like that. I forget her name too. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm bad with like. Yeah. I'm bad with, if you're outside of the 10 actors' names that I know.
Halle Bennett, I think. I could be wrong, but she's a very good singer, amazing voice. Like, I can understand wanting her to be the Little Mermaid. I kind of don't think you had to do that. Like, you know,
Halle Bailey.
Halle Bailey, yes,
You were close. It's not your fault that it's so close to Halle Berry. That's unfair.
It is. It's a cheat.
Because Halle Berry is probably one of the names that I do know. So
and you'd be like, "Oh yeah, you cast Halle Berry in that."
Halle Berry. It's not my fault they made a song about it.
Do you think? And we're going to go into this article a little bit.
Sure.
In the book and all this stuff about Marvel, that they're kind of like shit on Marvel and blow it up.
we had to cut in. We had a stream on that the week it came out, and I love that. First of all, Leonard Kim always checking in on our streams, and he said it like it is. Like that was a hit piece on Marvel. We were like,
oh
yeah, that's It's like, oh, I need an article because our magazine isn't selling because magazines are a dying industry. So I will say it had really nice art. I'm glad that they got two different artists to like do all the illustrations for their stuff. That was really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't read it. I read excerpts of it. I didn't read the whole thing because it was time to read. But before we go into the article, how do you is it too much Feige?
No. I think it's a good idea to have one person with a singular vision.
Yes.
I do think that he needs to make sure that like any project that you're working on, if you're going to delegate stuff, you have to, first of all, make things clear. You have to get the right people to do stuff.
Yeah.
And if something isn't working, you have to like roll with the punches and maybe which is kind of what they're doing now, right? They're revamping. They saw that whatever they've been doing is not working for everyone, because it is working for some people. There are people that just they'll love it, whatever, regardless of what's put out, they're gonna love it. But there's a lot of people that, and I think a lot of it is fair criticism, that there's an oversaturation in the media. You're asking too much of your audience to like go watch this show and then watch this movie, because the movie's not going to make sense if you don't watch this show. And movies and TV are so different too. Like there's people that love watching movies and they watch all the movies, but they'll hate sitting down and watch a season of TV, and vice versa.
It's more time consuming.
Yeah, but vice versa. There's people that love watching TV and that's all they watch. They never go out and watch movies and stuff. So asking, not everyone is like me, that I'm like, I'm gonna watch everything regardless of like what the time is, right?
So how do you feel?
You keep looking over. I imagine you have like somebody whispering like, "Here's what's next." No, I know.
No, I
know. But in my head, it's funnier if it's like you have a little advice there.
Wait, what?
Like
okay.
Your kids are telling you like, ask him this.
Yeah. So when it's like, I could talk about mental health stuff all day and all night, but it's stuff that like a lot of the topics that you talk about, I'm not Robin and Lego and all of them, where I watch 55 hours of movies a week and all. I can't do that. One, I have two jobs, and I don't have time for that.
Hey, be prepared. Be prepared. It's a good model for a reason. So
yeah, but knowing that I want to have stuff that, because we this is the third time we've talked, and I also wanted to make sure that we talked about different things, and it's a chance for us to talk about stuff that, like, we're talking about movies, but we're not talking about it the same way you talk about it with Lego and on Characters of Culture and Rob. It's a different perspective. I think that's more fun. So what do you feel about the Marvel doing the whole spotlight thing, where it's gonna, I guess, be like the Elseworlds, where they
do it? Go. I mean, I think I'd rather have good stories than a big connected universe. If you can connect the universe, that's like a bonus for me.
Yes.
You know, I'd rather just give me those good stories. Give me the Elseworlds. Give me the multiverse thing. Like, I don't mind at all. I didn't, because I had been avoiding so much stuff for the Marvels to avoid spoilers and stuff, and also because of the strikes, I hadn't been looking at coverage of like it was a whole thing where with the strikes, I stopped doing videos for the trailers just to kind of support. Uh,
Like solidarity, yeah.
yeah. Like we would still do reviews, but that was like after the fact. But
Mhm.
like trailer reaction videos and stuff like that, that's still kind of publicity for the studio. So like we stopped doing that. So I was really out of like I didn't even see. I think the last trailer for the Marvels had like a bunch of imagery of like some of the old Avengers, and
Yeah.
people were talking about that. Like I never saw that. So like
Oh wow.
going into the film, I was like, what does that mean? Like, but then I just got
Mm.
a film that was fun and entertaining, and I was like, oh, I guess it didn't matter.
Yes.
So
So yeah, I don't know. I saw that there was somebody who did a because I'm in the car so much and I'm moving about so much, I can't necessarily read.
yeah,
So I watch a lot of like reviews and critiques and stuff on video. So YouTube's one of my best friends. I'm in YouTube all day. But it's a good way to get like the short burst information, I call it.
yeah, yeah.
Because I like to get the information in short bursts. So Echo is gonna be a spotlight. And the trailer for Echo looked dope.
So that's one of the ones I avoided because I know they're dropping
Ooh.
everything at like in the next couple of weeks. But I did hear that it's a lot more violent than
Yes.
most stuff.
Yeah.
Hence why they're putting it on Hulu as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
That's fine. That's good. Give me a cool story with I love Vincent D'Onofrio anyway, so like keep
Did you
bringing
have
it.
did you see the Magnificent Seven?
Yes.
He
His,
was great in that
he was
movie.
the drunk dude, right?
He was no. Chris Pratt was drinking all the time. He had the coon like the
Oh
raccoon
yeah.
skin hat. I
Yeah.
think he drank. He was just like he was like, what a man.
Yeah. He was like the real big gruff guy. Yeah, he was good. He
Yeah,
was good.
yeah. One of them was like, who was that grizzly man that walked
Yeah.
by?
I don't know that the movie was okay. I mean, anything with Denzel's gonna be at least okay.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The other Skarsgård was in it. Is that the one that does Pennywise, or is that the other one?
No, I think it's the other one.
It's the other one.
Yeah.
It was fun. Like, it was a good enough
I
movie.
like I like those ensemble like get the gang together type of films.
Yeah,
So
but and it was cool to see Denzel and Ethan Hawke back together. I thought that
yeah.
was
Oh
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
all right. Let's get into the Marvel shit.
Let's do it.
Kang or Doom or both?
Man, I'm a Doom guy
Oh
through
really?
and through. I find him to be such a interesting character.
Mhm.
Um Also, I was talking about this. I think I talked about this with Rob and Lego when we did the Loki review. That of course we kind of tangent off to other stuff, but like Kang in the comics is kind of like the Kang that he is now is a lot of retcons that they've changed. Like all those characters that are supposed to be Kang, like Immortus and all those variants or whatever. Joker, you there? Uh-oh. Hold on, folks. All right. Let's give Joker a minute to come back. This is interesting because as a guest, I have no control over the stream. So we may just be hanging out here for a while. I may need to hit up Rob to come rescue me from the. All right, Joker should be heading back soon. Uh,
All right. Are we back?
we're back.
I don't know what happened. My
I saw
Wi-Fi.
you. I was talking, and then I saw you freeze, and I was like, "Uh oh, what happened to I never freeze?"
I don't know. I don't know what happened. I haven't frozen in a long time. I think it
That was
was.
scary. I was scary because I told the audience, like, as a guest, I don't have control over any of this.
Of course you do. You
So,
very much have control of
well,
it.
as far as like the stream will just stay on forever.
I know. It just doesn't care. It gives 0 Fs. All right. So we were talking about Kang vs. Doom, and you were saying that.
Yeah, I was talking about the Kang is kind of a character that's been retconned a lot.
Mm,
So he's not. I think he's kind of a big threat in the comics, but he's not like the big threat. He's not on the level of like Magneto or Doom or Apocalypse
mhm.
or like some of those big bats or even Galactus. So
I think that so I love and we can talk about Loki a little bit. The scene where Loki and He Who Remains went in the castle, Citadel, whatever it was, and they were going back and forth talking about time. That was one of the best scenes I've seen in a long. It was just like two actors just going balls deep.
yeah, there was a lot of just like let's act in this
Yeah,
show,
yeah,
which is cool.
yeah. Hot take: I didn't like episodes 1 and 2, and I didn't like 6. 6 was fine. 6 was
Oh,
4, 3, 4, and 5. 5 I like. I like them all a lot. To me, 6 I understand why people like it,
yeah.
but for me, I was just like, okay. And I just the first season had episodes where they were very like up and down. Where you'd have episodes where you like run, and then episodes where you're like, I'm now walking.
Yeah, yeah. I I think I just like the way they were able to like they close out the story on Loki on multiple levels. Like they close it out for the season, they close it out for the larger part of the show, like both seasons.
Mhm.
They close out his story in like the larger MCU, like from the beginning, from like the Thor movie.
Right.
So like I think that was cool. I think it was a nice way to like if we're gonna send off a character,
Yeah.
I would say Loki has the richest arc, maybe only second to Tony,
Oh yeah.
and maybe and Tony and Cap
Cap. I
probably.
was about to say that too.
Yeah, so but everyone like out of everyone else, because everyone else's story is still kind of ongoing for the most part,
Yeah.
and Black Widow's arc is not my favorite how it ended. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah,
So when we talk about what's going on in this article, and they're talking about all the troubles and all the struggles. What's your take on what's going on? How do you feel about the MCU right now? How do you feel about the character development, the characters? I feel like kind of like a lost puppy.
It just feels very, very disjointed. Like I think they're sacrificing just like they're sacrificing those close stories and those like Ant-Man 3 should have just been like, let's make another Ant-Man movie, not let's try to move the whole phase forward with one thing. Right? I think that's a big misstep there. I think the movie was fine. It was whatever. It's okay. It's still pretty silly and like all that stuff, but that's the big thing. Like, or even Secret Invasion was probably just not very good. Like, there's a fun, interesting premise there that they didn't follow through. And a big part of it is because like, once we're done, we gotta send Nick Fury off to the Marvels. So like, where's the stakes on something like that, right? Especially because they like before the last episode of Secret Invasion, they dropped the trailer for the Marvels, and then you see Nick Fury there, and you're like, so I guess okay. I guess he'll be all right. Right, so like it took a lot of the stakes away from the show. So yeah, I don't know. Like I think if you do less, they need to go back to quality over quantity.
Oh yeah.
So
I think that was a big Chapek thing from what I've heard and what they were saying. Now here's a fun question. Do you think that the MCU would be better if they more faithfully followed some of the storylines they based their movies on? Some of the comic book storylines they based the movies on. So if it was actually the Infinity Gauntlet saga, if it was actually the Kang saga.
No, I don't think that's the problem, because everything leading up to Infinity War and Endgame, like for the most part, they just kind of borrowed the names and like high level concepts, right? Like Civil War was not like that in the comics at all.
Right.
Infinity War was not like that in the comics at all. So they were just kind of borrowing the name. So I don't think that was the issue. Now, it is odd to me that the fact that you have stories that are proven, tried and true, like they're proven to work, and you don't want to adapt that, like feels weird. I think that's something that DC Animation does really well. They're just animating a comic book storyline that already happened. They're like, oh, this works. People love this. We're just gonna animate it now. Like they change very few things. They update a few things. Maybe condense some characters, because in the comics you have a lot of freedom to do whatever you want with characters and stuff. Whereas you adapt something like maybe you have a character that has to be maybe three combined characters in one or something, so yeah, I don't know. So I don't think that's the problem. Now, yeah, I would like to see that. Like Hawkeye did it very well, I think, where they're like, that's probably one of the closest things to the Hawkeye run. So
what storyline? So let's say because obviously the Fantastic Four is going to come out, and I think a lot of this is going to hinge on Deadpool, but I think Deadpool is almost probably a surefire hit, because I don't think.
Yeah, I think
I'm sure Feige's involved, but I don't think he's involved like before.
Yeah, he's not like, you need to have all these things. Maybe there's a checklist of things they want to have. Deadpool to me feels like a palate cleanser of like, we're done with Fox, we're done with all these other other like tangential Marvel universes. We're even kind of maybe done with our own universe, like a specific version of our own universe. So let's clean it up. I think Loki did a lot of cleanup at the end. Like you can use that ending to clean up a lot of things. You can use Deadpool to clean up a lot of things too, and also like regain some of the perspective. Now, Loki is going to be rated R, so I don't expect it to be like this gigantic movie, massive movie,
Yeah.
or at least it should be rated R. I think it's gonna be, but it should be.
Deadpool?
Yeah,
I thought it was R. Deadpool's gonna
I
be R.
think it will be. I think it will be. So I hope they don't change their minds to try to include more. Because
Mm.
I feel like the first one was R and the second one was PG-13, maybe.
No, it was R. They did a PG-13 version.
Oh, they did a
remember?
PG-13 version after. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Wasn't that the one with Fred Savage?
You know, I never saw that one.
I never saw it either. I just know Fred Savage.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but yeah, I never went back to watch it. But
I know.
even then, even with the R rating, like these movies still made like $750 million, $750 million. So like, you know,
They're gonna make a lot of money. I
Yeah.
don't. I think they're gonna make a lot of money because I think they're gonna have the people that are waiting to see what happens. They're gonna come and they're gonna come out see just because if you weren't a Fox Mark, like I'm not a Deadpool fan. It's not the movies are great though. I like the movies because I think they're as much as they're unique, they're Ryan Reynolds too, and I think that when Ryan Reynolds does what he's doing in Deadpool,
yeah,
it's very box office.
yeah.
Here's a fun question you'll enjoy. If you were Feige, what would you do? If you were Feige, you wake up tomorrow, you got the hat on, you're Feige. They come up to you, hey, Dan Feige, what do you want to do with the MCU? What are your plans?
First thing I'd be like, oh shit, I'm white. I mean, I like his plan. I think leading up to Secret Wars makes perfect sense.
Okay.
It's just kind of the approach to get there. Like, I want the X-Men, but I don't think the I was talking to somebody the other day too. Like, I think one of the things that kind of derailed what the MCU was doing was the Fox acquisition, because then it's like either the fans want you to play with those toys that you just got back,
Yeah.
or you yourself as the creator want to like play with those toys that you couldn't play with before.
Oh yeah.
Right.
What are you gonna? Let's say they did a Wolverine movie with Hugh. I know they're not going to, but under the MCU, that would be cool.
I think what I would like to see is, let's take the path that we're kind of already on. Like, let's follow up with some of that stuff. Let's follow up with maybe change the Kang Dynasty to something like another Avenger event where where you start planting seeds of the X-Men, and then everything kind of leads up to this Secret Wars where you've already have your Fantastic Four because that movie already happened. You bring everything to Doom. Doom is this God version of Doom that recreates the world in his image, and then that kind of helps you also reset everything. And then when we come back with the new Avengers. Now, the new Avengers was a combination. It was Brian Michael Bendis said, like, let me just grab all these really cool, popular characters. So that's when Wolverine was in the Avengers. That's when Spider-Man was in the Avengers. It was Ms. Marvel back then before she changed her name to Captain Marvel. Like, it was a whole new roster of Avengers. And you have those people there. You could also then kick off your Young Avengers initiative, where it's like, oh, you have all these characters, and more importantly, I guess, for the real world implications, you have all these young actors and continue to be those characters for a long, long time. So I think that's kind of where I would like to see things go. But meanwhile, I still want to see like these little stories like a She-Hulk, where it's like it's a TV show that's fun and it's just about like, it's not about like world ending events. It's just like almost slice of life superhero stories. Of course, the Daredevil things looks cool. Like, I want more Moon Knight. The Wonder Man thing with Yahya Abdul looks super cool. So yeah, just in between all those little things. Oh, you know what else I really like? I would definitely try to have at least once a year one of those special presentations, like like Werewolf by Night or the Guardians holiday thing,
Yes.
where it's just like a fun thing where you don't like it doesn't have to tie into everything. It doesn't have to. It's just like, oh, we can also have fun with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And that could be where you develop characters too, where it
yeah,
doesn't have to be.
yeah. Like, hey, let's do a presentation. Oh, this was really popular. Cool. Now we can like
Yeah.
really go all in on bringing something to the films or whatever. You know, do a Black Knight to follow up on that Eternals movie that a lot of people didn't even watch. Because the Black Knight is cool and you can do some story, like you could do a medieval thing, you could do a current day thing, and then you test it out because they teased spoilers for the Eternals if you haven't seen it. They teased Blade kind of at the
Yep.
end of it. So
what do you? Oh, what was I going to ask you? Senility is setting in. I'll have to come back to that. So,
sure.
question: we're going to transition to a little bit more to comic books and anime stuff. Then we'll talk about DC, and then I'll probably let you go. Who are the comic books affecting the comic book movies, or the comic book movies affecting comic books? Is there any kind of impact, or do you not see it?
I think unfortunately neither.
Really?
Which is a shame. I will say the movies do have an effect of like, and this has been happening since the beginning. Oh boy, Joker, did you freeze again? Okay. The movies have been doing this thing where like once a character becomes popular in the movies, they try to make the comic book counterpart like a little bit more like that.
Yeah.
When Loki was a success after the Avengers movie, they revamped the character to be more like that, where he became like the agent of Asgard, and because Loki has taken many forms, he looked more like Tom Hiddleston's age and build and all that stuff. They also changed the Guardians of the Galaxy to reflect a team that looked more like what we've seen in the movies. And I think that's fine. I think that's cool. Like, I know people want more stories. Like, if you see a movie and you really like it and you want to see more stories, but I don't know. I think if you're a comic book fan, you're probably excited for the movies already. So I don't think that's like building any extra hype. But I do wish, and this is something that I feel like DC does very well, like especially when they do their marketing. At the end of their trailers, they'll put out like, "Hey, here's some books that about the character that you just saw on the screen.
Oh, nice.
Why don't you go buy them?" Instead of whereas Marvel, I feel like they just kind of rely on people that make videos about that stuff. Where it's like, did you like the trailer that you just saw? Maybe you can go. I don't know if you know Koi Jandro. He's very good at that. Where it's like, did you like what you just saw? Why don't you go read these things or whatever? So, but Marvel doesn't take advantage. I feel like they don't take advantage of that. Can you imagine if every time you bought a movie ticket, you got a digital code for like for a comic of the movie you're about to see?
That'd be cool.
They already do all that kind of stuff. Where it's like, or you got a 10-day trial to their Marvel Unlimited service, where it's like, oh shit, like I can read all these comics for free for 10 days. Like, yeah. So I don't know. They're just really not taking advantage of that. I think adding it to your movie ticket, like just one comic. I think they did that a lot in the TV shows. I believe it was Moon Knight, where there was like QR codes in the show.
Oh, okay.
And if you scanned it, it would give you a free digital code of like something related to that episode of Moon Knight.
That's cool. That's really cool because
people love free stuff.
Of course, and me again, like I said, liking to know the source material a little bit helps bring clarity with some things, because I think especially now with Marvel, because DC for the most part stays with the same characters. They change it up. They might add people every now and then. Yeah. But Marvel, expanding, and it's just like at some point Yeah, I don't know who this is, and who
Right.
is, but okay, I mean, DC did it a little bit with Suicide Squad, the
I
Suicide
mean,
Squad.
they're about to do it a lot with with everything that James Gunn announced. Like, I don't know that everybody knows who the Creature Commandos are, or I don't know who that everybody knows who like Blue Beetle or no, yeah, Blue. I mean, even Blue Beetle or Booster Gold. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know that everybody knows those characters. So they're kind of like doing both, where it's like, yeah, we're gonna
mm,
give you a Superman movie, but we're also gonna give you this
right.
series that you may not know like as much about. So
So let me ask you a question. Since you brought up Blue Beetle, did Blue Beetle resonate with you more than like the Telecans and Black Panther? Did it resonate different? I thought it
I
was a good. I thought it was cool.
I love this movie. It was so much fun. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say it was so much fun. I think Jaime was a very likable character because of like everything he like. I love how much they focused on the family aspect of it.
Mm,
Like that's important because that's important to the community. Family is very important. So like
yeah.
they definitely focused in on that. And they just kind of make it look cool. Like he was is still just a kid that got the superpower, right? When he
Yeah.
makes the sword, like, yeah, if I had the powers to just do whatever I can, I would just make a big ass sword because
Oh yeah.
I love anime and they always have those giant swords.
Do you like so working with different cultures, like therapy wise? When I saw Miss Marvel, I love Miss Marvel because just the picture they painted of like the Islamic, Muslim, Hindu, all of it. And I'm doing a broad stroke of
Yeah,
all of different, but just to watch it and see. And my wife's best friend is Muslim, so you see pieces of it, but see it on TV. I was like, oh yeah, I seen that, and that's cool. And it's just like, I think those snapshots in the culture are great. A little bit of what we
yeah,
talked about.
and you see behind the curtain of like what are they like? What are they like in their home, or what are they like at the mosque? And like
Yeah.
it's all those little things that being an outsider you wouldn't normally get.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what helps people relate to each other, and then you see the
Yeah,
commonalities.
you're like,
And
oh
I,
yeah, my parents are all over my case too, or they were all over my case when I was a teenager too, right? So same struggles.
yep, trying to figure out, and then trying to navigate relationships when you were
Hmm.
younger, trying to figure out, okay, do I like this person? Do I not like this person? Does this happen? Like, what's a friend? What's a girlfriend? What's a boyfriend? What's a whatever? All that stuff was interesting.
Yep.
Um, so we'll go back to DC, but you like anime. I was watching a guy. I was watching a man on YouTube. His name's Layman's Journal, and he was talking about how he's kind of given up on Marvel, kind of given up on DC, and he's turned to anime because he said that the stories are more realistic and more like more intriguing and more interesting.
Mm, I would say with manga and anime, I think the advantage is that each manga is just like it's just one story, right?
Mm.
It may be a long story, it may be something that goes on for a long, long time, but it's still all about. It's not like they're not crossing over with, like Dragon Ball Z is not crossing over with a whole bunch of things or whatever. Like you
Right.
can just if you want to, if you want to, you can just read that one manga, or you can just watch the one anime, and you're gonna get a complete story all throughout, right? You don't have to go watch another movie. Oh, sometimes you do
Oh,
have. Yeah, I see you here. Sometimes you do have to watch movies and stuff, but like it's very rare that you have to do other stuff. So
okay. Um. So manga is the one you've been reading.
yeah, I read manga. There's something called the Shonen Jump app, which Shonen Jump is like the big manga magazine that's targeted at like teenage boys.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one. But I mean that's the one that I've been kind of like reading since I was a teenage boy. I just
Oh,
kind of
okay.
like I already know, but I mean there's all sorts of as many genres as there are in like books, like just literature in books. There are
Mm-hmm.
genres in manga. Like you can find if you
Mm.
like if you like romance, you can find romance manga. If you like stuff about like sci-fi or reality or like crime or thrillers, you can find that. If you like about sports, I love sports manga. Like I think those are really fun. I just started reading one about hockey.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah,
That's
it's really cool.
I work with a lot of clients on the spectrum, and a lot of them gravitate to anime.
Yeah.
Are you surprised that? I mean, I'm assuming that the community is very accepting and very much open. Are you, why would you? Why do you feel? What's your take on like the acceptance or why the autism community is so big in anime?
Oh man, I guess as far as that, I don't know that I would have any insight into that other than to say that I feel like because it is a very centralized world and story, I think there's
Mm-hmm.
some, and this is from the very little I know about autism, but I think there can be something that's kind of like comforting about like this one very specific story, the one very specific world where all the
Mm-hmm.
variables are removed. I think variables is a very big thing, that
Mm-hmm.
controlling variables and stuff like that. And please stop me if I'm talking out of my ass. Uh,
No, you're good.
but I think that would be part of it. I mean, that's why I like manga too, because or manga and anime. Like, I also find the relatability of the story, like just the focus on one specific thing, to be a lot of fun. I think manga is a cool medium to be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna check in on. It's like I'm just gonna check in on my friends weekly. Like what's going on with them this week.
Mm-hmm.
So
Nice. See, it's a really good answer.
good. I'm glad.
No, you did good. You did good. You're off the hot seat.
This experts title that you throw on us, it's a very daunting task to achieve.
But okay, so a lot of people do ask me, well, what am I an expert at? And I tell, so you don't think you're an expert on movie critique?
Oh God, no,
Oh,
no.
Daniel.
I think I like I said, I love talking about the genre, but I don't know that, like, I feel to me like an expert. It's not only somebody that enjoys the medium, but somebody that is like knowledgeable and like how do you get from the other side of the movie, like how do you make a movie, like what do things like you have to be learned on some of those things. I would say my expertise would rely more on comic books because I am more aware of I'm more aware of the process of making a comic.
Mm-hmm.
Like I followed a lot of processes from the beginning, from like an idea to like scripting it to like working to like I feel like I have a lot more insight into that as to
Mm-hmm.
where the movie is like, I don't know, it looks cool, like, but I don't know what all went into it. Like obviously you kind of learn things as you talk about them or you listen to people talk about them. And I will say the things that I try to point out now in my reviews and when I talk about stuff definitely has changed over the past few years, where when I started
Mm-hmm.
doing this, where before I was like, I don't know, it looks cool,
Yeah.
sounds good. But that's also I think that's also a fair critique of something, right?
Yeah.
Do you like something? So, but
Yeah.
I would definitely not call myself an expert on that.
If you say so, I'm not gonna. I have no problem. I think when somebody talks about something enough, and I was like I said, looking at your different shorts and your different movie videos and all that stuff. I was like, man, I didn't realize how much you talk about movies.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I love. I don't know. Ever since I was little, I love watching movies.
Oh yeah, movies are
So,
great. I like I like seeing horror movies a little bit more than the big Marvel and DC and
yeah,
stuff like that. But I really like seeing horror movies in the movie theater
I
because I feel like the experience is great.
I think I just love stories
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not too big on like documentaries and nonfiction.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just like stories. I
Okay.
wish I wish I was a better reader. I don't have very good reading comprehension skills, which really detracts me from actually reading. It should be the other way around. It should encourage me to read more so I can
Mm-hmm.
sharpen those skills. But I mean, I just really like stories.
Okay. All right, that's cool. I guess we should talk about DC. Just,
I guess so. Oh,
just
what's that?
we talked about Marvel. So Saffron and Guns
Right.
playing. What are you feeling? What's your initial thoughts on, what they have going on? I've heard a lot of Superman legacy stuff, which sounds like it could be cool.
Yeah. Um, I like it. Well. So I will say this. Usually, I'm pretty optimistic about stuff. Like, I don't see a point in just like being very negative about stuff that you have no control over in the beginning, or like stuff that hasn't even
Right.
happened yet. I'm just kind of happy, like, oh, we're gonna get a bunch of Superman movies, or we're gonna get a bunch of DC movies and stuff. Cool,
Mm-hmm.
cool. Like, I understand a lot of people haven't liked a lot of the stuff that's come out, but like, there's also some really good stuff. So, like, I don't know. I think DC made a good call, like having two people. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes the creative skills doesn't allow you to have the same business mindset as well.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Now, luckily for Marvel, I think Feige is pretty competent at both. But if they need two people to do that, like Peter Safran's been doing, like he's been a producer forever, so
Yeah.
he knows how to make things work. And James Gunn is a very creative person.
Yeah.
That also, I think my biggest thing about both of them is that they also appreciate other creative people
Yeah.
to kind of give them freedom or a little bit more leeway than like, oh, you have to do it my way, or like, because DC lost a few directors over stuff like that, where like we have this specific vision that we need you to complete.
Mm.
And Marvel same way, right? Like
Yeah.
the Ant-Man, the first Ant-Man movie was a completely different thing, and then is it Eric Wright? Mm, I don't remember the name of the director. Scott Pilgrim director. So yeah, Edgar Wright. He's like,
Right.
no, this is not the movie I want to make, so I'm just gonna leave. So,
Mm.
so yeah, I'm pretty optimistic. I like the projects they've announced. I think it's all stuff that seems very, all kinds of things, like very
Mm-hmm.
diverse. They're really hedging their bets of like, and I mean, that's just good business, right? Diversifying your portfolio is just
Yeah.
good business.
Yeah.
So, where I feel like on the opposite side, we were talking about this on Thursday. Marvel put all their eggs on the Kang basket, and now the Kang basket's not as, so like,
They put their eggs in Kang, but then they kicked Kang's ass with Ant-Man.
yeah, that's the other thing.
Kind of undermining, like,
You can't have
because
your big bad lose the first battle right away.
right, and I understand, like, if it was something where he got trapped somewhere or something, I can understand, but to lose to Ant-Man and ants in a fist fight, and you're supposed to be Kang.
We were talking about the solution to that would have been to just have that Kang be portrayed by a different actor.
Yeah.
Because then it's not Jonathan Majors Kang that lost; it's some other copy of Kang. It's like if it's kind of what they did with Thanos, right?
Yeah.
Thanos was the big threat all along, but he sent in his people. He sent in Loki first to do his bidding or whatever. He also had Ronan the Accuser do stuff for him.
Mm-hmm.
He even had in Infinity War and Endgame, he had his Black Order do stuff for him. So like, yeah, if you're gonna, and that's just basic,
That's
like
what boss does.
that's just basic wrestling stuff. Like,
Yeah.
don't let the big bat. Don't if you want somebody to get hot, you can't have them lose. Like, that's just not how it works.
And
You can have other people lose on his behalf.
mm-hmm.
So
I think that if you had, because if you had He Who Remains, if you made him more prevalent, like, because he's supposed to be, he's at the end of time or whatever, and he's transversed it all and beat everybody, and he's killed Avengers and all that stuff, and it's just like the Kang from Ant-Man. I didn't buy into that, but He Who Remains, what I liked about him was that he was smart. you could tell he was
Oh
weathered.
yeah, he was
Like,
in control. He was.
yes,
Yeah, he had a plan.
yes. And the other Kang didn't really. And then you have the only ones we've seen is He Who Remains, the Kang from Ant-Man, and Victor
Mm,
Timely. Those have
Victor
been the
Timely.
only. And Victor Timely was okay, but there should be some Kang to him. There should be some malevolence to him. And I know he might not have gotten there yet, but there has to
Yeah,
be.
and they try to clear that up at Ant-Man at the end with the end credit scene with all
Yeah.
the other Kangs that they showed. They're like, oh, that was the weak one. Well, yeah, maybe, but he looks exactly like just like all the other ones. So like
Yeah.
to to the common person, like how are they supposed to separate that? Like next time I see him, I'm just like, oh, go get the ants. It worked on the other guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. That was a big. I think that was a big misstep of like putting all your eggs on either the same character or just the same
Right.
actor portraying the same character. Because then also you have kind of the real world implications of like Jonathan Majors is obviously in hot water right now with stuff and whatever's going on with the case. I haven't really kept up with it, but like, yeah, what now? Or like, even let's say something else could happen and then he couldn't do it. Like, what like where's your backup plan? Like how do you hinge all your
Mm.
stuff on one person? Now, I will say I think their original plan was probably like we're gonna let you think Kang is the big bad, but then Doctor Doom is gonna swoop in and be like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh shit, Doctor Doom took out Kang so easily.
Yeah.
He's the real big bad." But obviously, that wouldn't be too convincing now because I'm like, "Oh, I guess Kang just loses to everyone." The thing that made Thanos so threatening is that he won an Infinity War,
Dude,
right?
he won an Endgame
He
too.
won, and yeah, kind
He
of,
got defeated in Endgame
yeah,
because they got the stones, but in reality, it what separated Thanos from everybody else is Thanos. You never see him really lose.
yeah.
You,
I
you
mean,
see,
I do want him to. I do want him to eventually lose as the
yeah,
bad guy, but like, don't let him lose right away. I want him to like
no,
make me be like, oh shit, this is getting worse. Like we've thrown our best stuff at the guy, and he's still just taking it.
he's whooping, but he was whooping everybody's ass.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy. Like he
Mhm.
beat Miss Marvel. He all your strongest. He was like, and but that's what a true villain. Think about it, if Killmonger wasn't by himself and he had an actual plan. I think that's one of the downfalls of
Oh
Killmonger.
yeah, I wish they hadn't killed him.
Oh, I love Killmonger.
Yeah, I wish he was still around. He would be. I think he would be a great person to team up with Doom
Yes.
and be like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna control your kingdom. I'm gonna control my kingdom. We're gonna do this shit
Yes.
together." And then maybe have Killmonger be the stepping stone to lose eventually to get to Doom and something like that. I don't know. Yeah, I wish he was still around.
Yeah. I agree. I do think that one of the things I did hear, then we'll go back to DC. One of the things that I did hear that was interesting was they talked about, kind of revamping the Ultron storyline to replace King, which I like those because I love James Spader.
Yeah, me too.
Him. He does no wrong. I haven't seen him in a bad role. I do
He's the
think
fucking Lizard King.
yeah. If you saw, like, if you would have seen, I don't know if you saw What If. Did you see the What If?
Yeah,
Like the Ultron storyline, What If was pretty cool.
it was cool.
I like that, but I do think that, and again, and this goes back to, do you derive it more from the comic book storylines, which is where it's supposed to come from, and not take as many freedoms?
Yeah, I think they can bring him back. The Red Skull is weird because obviously he has a weird affiliations.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's somebody they could bring back too. Like he's just off in whatever.
Yep.
He's in that planet or whatever. But now that the gems are gone, maybe he could come back. Like,
Yeah.
he'd be like, "Oh shit, now I'm free, and
Yeah.
I've been working my way back to Earth, and I'm gonna get my revenge. And now that Captain America's not here, you guys are fucked because he was the only one that could stop me."
Mm.
So,
Um, and good talks, good talks. Should the DCU, if you had to pick between Superman or Batman, I know you're gonna say, but who would you center the new DCU around, Superman or Batman? I know Gunn, they put their you know.
I think Superman makes sense. It Superman's I know. I look listen, hear me out. Hear me out. Obviously I want to say Batman.
Yeah.
But Superman makes sense because he's the alien that's discovering the world. And I think I like the idea that Batman
Mm-hmm.
is this urban legend. Like they even when they got to Batman v Superman, Superman didn't even think that Batman was real, and he had been doing his shit for 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Like he's just an urban legend. He's just a myth in Gotham. And then
Mm-hmm.
like introducing the world via Superman is like, oh, these big things are happening, and maybe eventually something comes along that even Superman can't handle by himself. So he needs to turn to someone for help, and the only person that can help is somebody that knows his world, and that's Batman. And Batman has to step up because he knows that, oh, I can't. If Superman's out, like I'm not gonna be able to stop this whatever threat's going on. So, yeah, they Superman makes sense. As much as I love Batman, and I wish that was the starting point. I would even say somebody like, oh man, I don't know, Wonder Woman or like just another character that is just amazing. Like even the Flash, maybe like he doesn't know how to be a superhero. Like we gotta maybe we have Wally instead of Barry this time around.
Yeah.
There's nobody there to like teach Wally how to be a superhero. But then he hears about this Superman guy that's in Metropolis, and he goes to see him and he tries to get some advice. Or he runs into Batman like while chasing one of his villains or something like that. And then he kind of starts exploring like I think making the Flash the heart of your team is always a good idea. Like especially if I don't know if you saw the animated show, the Justice League animated. The Flash was kind of the heart of that team.
Oh, okay. Yes,
So,
it's been a while, but yes.
Yeah, so I think he'd be a good character to intro, or Wonder Woman just discovering man's world of like, oh shit, there's all this stuff that's going on. So
yeah, I do think that the DCU now it's not all Batman, but it's very Batman centric.
And you'll always still have those. They said we're gonna have those Elseworld stories. Like Matt Reeves is gonna have his Batman universe, right? Joker's gonna have his own movie still. Like I don't know. I feel like Todd Phillips I feel like he has a trilogy in him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was supposed to be a trilogy.
I think he's got a trilogy in him, and they just like they don't want to like announce anything too much in advance. But if this other movie does well, like I don't see why they wouldn't make another one.
No, they're gonna do the Joker, and whether it's Barry Keoghan or not. I like that. I actually like Barry Keoghan. I think you could almost build off of what you did in Arkham. I think that was like a cool starting.
Yeah, but I was thinking about the what do you call it? The Joaquin Phoenix Joker. I think that has a trilogy in it too. Where it's like, oh yeah, I also feel for Matt Reeves, I agree with you. I think Joker should be the villain for the third movie.
Yeah.
I don't think he should be the villain for the second movie. Even though we've already kind of set it up.
But I do like again the premise they're working on. If you go with that kind of like Silence of the Lambs premise, I like that. Like the whole Hannibal thing, that would be cool. For him to break out and then they kind of square off in the third one.
It would even be cool of like in the second movie, Batman's so overwhelmed that he has to go to Riddler, who's in jail, to like figure out what the hell's going on, right? And we know that Riddler is kind of talking to the Joker, so like they kind of start setting things in motion to be like eventually both of them maybe get out or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of cool. There's a lot. Luckily, Batman's got like 80 years of history that they can pull from.
Oh yeah. It's an interesting question I heard. So if you were gonna pick, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and Batman has one of the like best role galleries anyway. So
Oh yeah. One of the fun questions
what's
I
the question?
heard. DC versus Marvel. Who do you think has a brighter future? Let,
Well, I think
let's
I
start.
think
Let's start with 2024. So let's look at
well
like.
then I would say well I guess there's no DC movies till 25, but yeah, in the next 5 years I would say DC has the upper hand because they're kind of starting fresh, and growth is always easier at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas obviously we know Marvel's plateaued and then they kind of fell back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a little bit harder unless they go ahead and like kind of reboot everything and they do kind of a fresh start type of thing. I think as far as what's it called? Oh man, potential. I think potential. Just like I think DC's got the upper hand, just because the Marvel's got a lot of baggage in it, right? It's like so.
When do you see Marvel kind of rebooting to say, okay, let's go back to year one?
Man,
That would be. It's rough because if they were smart, I didn't mean to cut you off, but if they were smart, they would kind of reboot with the X-Men.
maybe that could be something they could do. I don't know. Reboots are hard. I guess it's tough to do it in live action. Is tough because for some reason Marvel and just I guess like movie makers in general
Mm-hmm.
are afraid to recast someone.
Mm.
I think audiences are smart enough to understand
Yeah.
like, oh, this is a different actor, but it's still the same. Like Marvel is about the characters that are already there, not about who's portraying them. Obviously, there are people who can probably do better at something, but
Mm-hmm.
like if you want to keep having like I don't know, like especially with something like Black Panther that unfortunately it comes from real life
They should.
tragedy.
Yeah, they should have recast Chadwick.
They like at some point like people that character is important. You need to have that character.
He was missing from the movie. That's why I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Shuri being the new Black Panther?
I think that's cool. It's happening in the comics, so like
Mm-hmm.
it's cool. Like, but you can have both things. You can have you can recast. I don't want them to be like, oh, we gotta wait till his kid grows up or whatever. But they could introduce a Black Panther in the Young Avengers type of fashion too, where it's like
Mm.
little T'Challa.
Yeah. So I was listening to a fun fact that Marvel's movies average 1 billion per movie. Average.
Average. When I mean, I guess if you put them all together, yeah.
Yeah. You average 1 billion per movie. Because even the bad ones make 500, 600 million. I mean, sans if you take the Marvels out, but it's not done yet. And you kind
Right.
of take what did Quantum Realm make? 500, 600 million, I think.
Yeah, it still did a lot of business.
That's not that's not that far from 1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
I think DC what DC banks on, and to your point, if they recast, they bank on the characters that everybody knows because they're the characters, not the people playing the characters.
So funny enough, I'm looking at the box office for the Marvels. I feel like they can rally through the holiday.
I think they will.
If word of mouth keeps kind of going out there,
Yeah.
now you actually have. So I think something that I've heard a few people talk about this, and I feel like a lot of people don't take into consideration how many things outside of the movie had the Marvels had going against it.
Oh yeah.
Like there was no the strikes were happening, so obviously the actors couldn't like. I feel like people don't appreciate enough how much the actors promoting something like to the mainstream, like on the late night shows and like Good Morning America, or like all those, like all the shows that the majority of the people, like the people that are looking to see, like, what am I going to do this weekend,
Hmm.
right? There's people that are like, oh, I'm going to go watch a movie this weekend. That's
Yeah.
what. There's people that are like, I'm going to go watch the Marvels this weekend. That's what I'm doing. Not even a movie, just the Marvels.
Hmm.
So there's different levels of it, and there's people that are just like, I don't know what to do this weekend. But then you see a conversation with Jimmy Fallon or whatever, like,
Yeah.
oh, that looks fun, or like, oh, that movie's coming out already. Like, I don't know, because not everyone keeps up with this stuff like on a daily. Also, there's a lot of other, and I won't get too deep into this because I'm not very well versed in time the topic, anyways. There's a lot of people that are boycotting Disney because
Mm.
of other like real world implications and everything that's going on. And that could mean like they don't buy tickets for them. Like maybe they still go watch the movie, but they either like they buy a ticket for something else and then go watch the Marvels, or they just pirate the movie. Like there's a lot of ways that they're boycotting Disney while still trying to like get their content. So
Of
like,
course, because on Thanksgiving, I'm gonna probably have to see something.
yeah,
My wife and my daughter, the younger, they saw the Marvels, right? I want to see Thanksgiving, but I don't know if my wife wants to see it. But I don't really make her go to the horror movies.
I'm gonna watch. I'm probably gonna end up watching Napoleon sometime this week.
Oh yeah, that looks good too. There's a lot of good, and I think that's also hurt.
Yeah, yeah. That's another thing. There's a lot of like
There's a lot of good movies coming out.
because a lot of stuff got pushed.
Yeah,
There's a lot of stuff coming out now.
yeah,
Also, like these other studios that were not on strike because they were paying people properly, like
yeah,
A24 and Neon and stuff like that.
yeah.
Like they never had to change their movies, so they were taking advantage of like, oh, you
Mhm.
Disney moved their movie out of the way. Like I'm gonna put my movie there
Exactly.
to take advantage of like, yeah, I'm gonna be the big movie that weekend, right? So
Hmm.
like, there's all these other outside factors that people don't take into consideration of like why this movie may be making less money that has nothing to do with the actual quality of the film.
And I think that's. Do I think Ant-Man was great? No. Do I think it was written interesting? Yes. I think it was written pretty interesting. I like Jonathan. I like Jonathan Majors as an actor. Creed 3, the
I,
other movies I've seen. He's good.
yeah, I would never be like, I don't like Secret Invasion, so I'm not gonna go watch the Marvels. That doesn't make
Yeah.
sense to me.
Yeah.
That's like completely unreal. Like I hated Quantumania, so I'm not gonna go watch the Marvels. Like
Yeah.
what the hell? Like that's like saying I'm not gonna buy this Batman comic because this Superman comic was not very good.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy to me.
But I don't think general masses, and I'm more in the general masses than in the nerd. I'm nerd adjacent, I like to say. Um, so I think they don't care. When I talk to my wife, she goes, I don't care. You know why she wanted to see the Marvels? Because there was Dream Women in the lead.
Yeah.
That's it. That's why she didn't see she didn't see Miss Marvel, and she didn't care.
People seem to forget that the Marvel was still like the biggest box office for a black woman director ever.
Yeah.
But they don't take that into consideration because they're like, oh, it's a bomb or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. It's very
Mhm.
unfair to that.
It's very unfair, and it's also hard because what's happening now. I was listening to I don't remember who's saying it, but they were talking about the downfall of the leading male, like the movie star.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think
I-
Was it Quentin Tarantino talk about that? I think somewhere. I do remember hearing about that.
And they were saying that there's kind of like this there's not, you have Denzel, you have
Leo,
Brad Pitt, you got who'd you say?
Leo.
You got Leo, you have Tom Cruise, but I mean, listen, how many people just starting to go like this? Because Brad's what, 60?
Yeah.
Denzel's
50 something. Yeah, yeah.
maybe 55. Denzel's 60. How many more Equalizer 3s can Denzel do?
I'll say this. I'll keep watching those. If they keep making them, I'll keep watching. Like I finally got to see the third one because it was finally on video on demand.
Yeah.
and I was like, oh man, this is good. Like,
But
dude
what I
can
like
go.
is it's realistic.
Yeah.
He's doing stuff, and and it was like in the same way that I think with John Wick 4, it started to get into that like super realistic world where he's starting to get like Superman powers,
Mhm.
where Denzel, half the movie, he's recovering, he's getting
I,
better.
I love in John Wick 4 that he falls down the stairs for like 10 minutes. Because that's what would happen. Like, if I want to stop you from getting somewhere, I'm just gonna keep knocking you down the stairs.
Exactly. And
Uh,
it's just like, um,
I have one thing before
uh-oh,
we finish. I do want to get your opinion on something. But
uh-oh.
I wanna let you finish. If you I don't know if you have anything else.
Hold on. We have a guest. We have a
Oh,
villain in the house.
oh,
I see him. I don't hear him.
I
I
don't
don't
see
see him.
him.
That's
Good
okay.
evening.
Oh my God, Rob is so weird.
Who let this guy
Oh,
in? I
I
already
know.
streamed with Rob for 3 hours the other day. I don't want to talk to him anymore.
Um, did I have more questions? No. I mean, we talked about a lot. I thought it was very productive, sir. What did you want to get my opinion on?
I wanted to ask,
Oh,
and this is very like niche, but it is one of the reasons that we all kind of met.
hmm
Did you see that Doreen is leaving to do her own thing?
yes.
How do you feel about that? I know you're a big fan of Dorina. I mean, I'm sure you like all the girls, but
Um, I think that Dorina need. I think that Dorina's probably wanted to leave for a while
yeah,
because I feel like what Dorina brings to the World Girls is kind of like wisdom, but I think what the World Girls started out being and what they are now is different.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I think that I'm all about you doing more music and doing what you want to do. That's important.
yeah,
You know, and I didn't expect it to last for forever because realistically, it's like the World Girls is more like a Roxy centric project, and that's not saying Steph and Dorina weren't a part of it. I do think that Dorina has her own life. She has her boyfriend and her husband and all this stuff. And I think it's good that she's doing the things she needs to do for herself. And I'm about chasing your dream. I'm about making time to do the things you love.
yeah. And I think also like you know, Roxy and Steph are a little bit younger, so like they still have a lot of time to kind of fuck around and
Oh
try
yeah,
things out. Like, but at some point, like you want stability in like your life, and you want like consistency. And I think on something like that, maybe that's not something that can be afforded so easily, because it is such a weird, fickle industry where
yeah,
there's so many variables, right? If YouTube makes a change, then they're kind of
sure.
messed. Like they're kind of like if Patreon makes a change, like that affects them, right? If like
Yeah.
for whatever reason, and then it's also like so much constant work, like mentally exhausting work. Like you have to be on there. Like I've I've seen people streaming where they're just like, I don't know that you want to be doing this, but you're doing this
No,
because it's like
you need to make
you
money.
well that and you made a commitment and you have to be there and fulfill it, and that's what you're doing. Um, so, but I know you're a big Dorina fan. I also love Dorina, so wanted to check in with you. Like when I saw the stream, I was like, oh, what's happening? But I think Rob was streaming that same night, so I didn't get to watch it till the next day. Because I
During our
don't.
David Fincher ranking.
Yeah, we're doing that David Fincher thing. So I don't usually keep up with their streams anymore, but I'll still look at the titles to see like what's going on. I found it funny that they did a movie rankings like last week, and I'm like, you still got like 10 of the best movies coming out in the next couple of weeks. You got to redo this.
The end of the summer's gonna. The end of the. I'm sorry. The end of the season's gonna be
Yeah,
wild
yeah, like there's
because
still so much good stuff.
you have the Color Purple coming out.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah, Ferrari,
Napoleon. You have Ferrari.
the Iron Claw.
Napoleon.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm not a wrestling person, but I was like, first of all, what kind of steroids is that Efron on?
All
I
of
don't
them,
know,
dude.
but I want his personal trainer. Oh my gosh.
You want the other guy's personal training,
Jeremy Allen White. He
Jeremy
looks
Allen White.
fantastic. Oh my gosh.
He put on so much muscle because he's a small dude as far as like stature.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
He's always been pretty jacked, but in this one, like he looks like he's almost hunched over because his back is just so huge. I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, that looks interesting. I might actually see it. I think that a lot of that stuff looks interesting. There's a lot of movies coming out. They've lost. They're not as interesting as they were. I think that's hard.
I mean, you have to evolve and change, and sometimes you just can't because there's still, it's still very limited, and especially because I feel like what their initial plan was like, oh, we're gonna do all these things in real life, but then they had to pivot because of the pandemic.
Yep.
And then they're like, oh, this is way more cost effective, and it also brings in a lot more views and stuff than the stuff that we're like. It's kind of like, you're at a big company and they're like, what's our best selling product versus our best like, what do we profit on the most? So if those things aren't the same, then you're gonna have to make some tough choices. So
I think that to go back to what you were saying before about streaming all the time, I don't like to stream if I'm not prepared. I mean, can I wing a show for an hour? Yeah, but do I want to come on every single? I couldn't. Me personally, I wouldn't want to stream every single day. I don't know how some people do it because it's just a lot. Like I know you do shorts, and I'm just like, damn, you made like all these shorts and everything.
Yeah, and those are just things that sometimes I'm like, I'm glad I have access to like comics in advance and stuff like that because that allows me to make those videos. So yeah, sometimes I'm just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do this week. Something usually comes up anyways, but yeah.
Rob, you still with us?
Oh, I'm here. I've just been listening to your conversation. I was waiting. It's your show, so I'm not going to interrupt. You got to ask me questions if you want.
Oh, you want me to ask you questions?
Well, I mean, Danny's your guest, but like, if
you're a little late for that, Rob.
If you want me to retort, you guys are having. I'm very interested in your conversation. But I do want to say this. A few years ago, Dorina sent me a very nice Christmas message on Instagram. So shout out to her.
Where's my Christmas message?
She's a solid person.
Maybe I'll get on their Patreon this last month just to say bye.
I got the Christmas message because I made a whole documentary to like promote their show.
Oh, I see. Well, I think
it was the greatest promotional fucking material you could get.
I think it'll be easier if I just pay my way in. I'm definitely not putting in any work.
Oh. You're like, I'm good. Is that it? I think that's it.
They were pretty. I do like that we can close it in at the 2-hour mark.
Wow,
including the technical snafu.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
What happened?
My computer, my router was sending me a message that it went out, and that hasn't happened in a while.
Joker's internet fell out, and then it was just me sitting here, and then I don't have any control to do anything. And then the other thing is like I didn't want to drop. I don't know if you saw the image that's behind those, Rob.
It's you. It's your face.
Yeah, I don't want to drop off the camera because then it would just be my face.
That'd be great.
Right. Oh my gosh.
So.
All right, peeps. Let me wrap it up, and we'll chat behind the scenes. What do I have coming up? Hold on.
Well, we can't see it.
I know. I got you.
Here, I'll do this.
Oh. I got it, Rob. Thank you. All right. We'll bring the boys back. So coming up, the next episode is probably December 16th. I'm going to try to have one more guest on experts to round out the year to begin season 3. Mr. Daniel, talk your shit, plug your stuff. Next Issue Podcast.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, please go check out my YouTube channel, Next Issue Podcast. We do a lot of mainly comic books, but we also talk about movies and TV shows and other pop culture stuff. We're working on some list rankings, including our most anticipated sequel movies of 2024.
Ooh.
We put together live during the show.
Ooh.
Do you guys have a most anticipated sequel for next year?
Deadpool.
Rob, anything on your end?
Robbie.
Rob's passed out. Rob, did you just unmute?
You guys hear me? Hello?
Yeah, now we can.
Oh, you guys couldn't hear me before. That's wild.
No, it's like your name changed, like if you had it muted or something.
Oh, I said so much. Deadpool 3, yeah, 100%.
Okay, we'll see if that made the list. Unless you watch the live stream, then you already kind of know at least what movies are on there. You just don't know the order.
Okay. But I'm gonna take a guess. Your guys' top 3 for next year. Number 3 was Dune 2. Number 2. What's that?
I didn't see number 1 yet.
No, I'm talking about Danny's show.
Oh, okay. I'll just be quiet on my show.
Deadpool 3 is 1. Dune 2 is 2. There's another sequel. Oh, the Batman Part 2. That's probably number 2.
Oh,
that's 2025.
Oh, did it get moved?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Joker's 2024.
It wasn't on the list of stuff that we saw, but yeah, so I think it is 2025.
Joker's 2025, I think.
Joker's 2024 is Joker.
Yeah.
Joker, that's my number 1.
Rob, well, I'll tell you this. Dune didn't even make our short list.
Wow. Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, so that should be dropping soon. I have the assets ready. I just need.
Well, tune into that, guys. That sounds like a lot of fun.
That's right. And then also sometimes I'm on a podcast called the I Read Comic Books podcast. Go check that out. Where we definitely only talk about comic books. But it's a lot of fun. Mike and the gang are just really cool people, so it's fun to get to talk to them. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I'm on. And sometimes I'm on this channel and other things.
Pretty often. You're on this channel once a month at least.
Too often, I think.
Not enough. You're not an expert enough. You're them enough. You got to come to this side. You got to come on overtly opinion. Talk about fun stuff. So let's wish a belated happy birthday to the namesake, Mr. Fishbeck.
Thank you.
Happy 31. All right, fellas. I believe that's all they wrote. So I'm gonna kick you guys out. Daniel, thank you for coming on. Rob, thanks for popping in. Bum 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 bum.